What if everything you've been told about breast cancer screening and treatment is holding you back from true health? Today on The Britt Mayer Show, we are joined by Dr. Jenn Simmons, a renegade in women's health and author of The Smart Woman's Guide to Breast Cancer. She is rewriting the rules to empower you and future generations. Once a top breast surgeon in Philadelphia, Dr. Jenn left conventional medicine to focus on creating health, not just battling disease. Through her functional medicine practice at Real Health MD, her revolutionary radiation-free perfection imaging technology, and her podcast, Keeping Abreast with Dr. Jenn, she is on a mission to transform the lives of 2 million women. A mother, grandmother, and fearless advocate for truth. You guys are going to absolutely love her. I am so excited. Dr. Jenn is here to debunk myths, challenge the status quo, and arm you with practical tools to take control of your breast health. Get ready for a game-changing conversation. The sponsor of this episode is We Heart Nutrition. So I am a mom just like you. I'm very busy and I can get very wiped out. And I'm always seeking ways to re-energize in a healthy way. And that's when I found We Heart Nutrition. They have a wholesome women's multivitamin. It's packed with all the essential nutrients like vitamin D, B, zinc, and they're all high quality, clean ingredients. Not only do I love the supplements, but I love the company. It's family owned. It's a pro-mama company that donates to pregnancy care centers. And since I've started taking it daily, I promise you I have more energy to chase my kids and do what I'm doing now. Visit weheartnutrition.com and try the wholesome women's multivitamin that I have fallen in love with, along with a lot of their other products, and use code ROOTEDWINGS for an exclusive community discount. Dr. Jenn Simmons, thank you so much for sitting down with us. This is going to be such an exciting interview. We are going to cover a lot of ground, and I'm really just going to pick your mind when it comes to all things breasts, because that is your specialty. How did you end up in the world of breasts? That's your world. That's what you live in.
Yeah, it is. I didn't pick this. It very much picked me. I actually don't remember a time in my life where I didn't know about breast cancer. I come from a breast cancer family. Every woman in my family gets breast cancer with the exception of my mother who had colon. And we come from a big family, so it's a lot of breast cancer. And when I was growing up, I had a first cousin. Her name was Linda Creed. She was a singer-songwriter in the 1970s and 1980s. She was beautiful, brilliant, larger than life, lit up the room that she walked into, the queen of Motown sound in Philadelphia, and she was my hero. So she wrote 54 hits in all, and her most famous song was The Greatest Love of All. So she wrote that song in 1977 as the title track to the movie The Greatest, starring Muhammad Ali, but it really received its acclaim in March of 1986 when Whitney Houston would release that song to the world. And at that time, it would spend 14 weeks at the top of the charts. Only my cousin Linda would never know, because Linda died of metastatic breast cancer 1 month after Whitney released that song.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was 16 years old and my hero died. And her life and ultimately her death gave birth to my life's purpose, because I never wanted another woman, another family, another community to have to suffer the way that mine suffered. And so I did the only thing I knew how to do. I became a doctor, the first doctor in my family. I became a surgeon. I became the first fellowship-trained breast surgeon in Philadelphia. I became the first oncoplastic breast surgeon in Pennsylvania. And I did that really well and for a really long time. And I did it long enough for my aunt to be diagnosed and long enough for my mother to be diagnosed. And with all the writing on the walls, I'm about 15 years into my career, arguably at the top of my career. And I'm running the breast cancer program, and I'm actually running the cancer program in general for my hospital, and I'm running the breast surgery program. And I'm a wife and a mother and an athlete and a philanthropist and an author, and I have all these balls in the air, and I think I'm an expert juggler. And at what was, arguably me at the top of my game, being this super high functioning person, I went from being all that to I couldn't walk across the room because I didn't have the breath in my body.
When was this?
This was 2016. And I went through like a 3-day, really intensive battery of tests. And at the end of those 3 days, I find myself sitting in the office of my friend and colleague and physician. And he tells me that I need surgery and chemo and radiation, and I'm going to be on lifelong medication. And despite the fact that these are things that I said all day, every day, without hesitation or reservation, I could tell you that when these words are coming at you, they have different meaning.
Yeah.
And I was very much in that conventional medical world. I mean, here I am, a breast surgeon running an NIH accredited cancer program. Like, I didn't know that there was anything else. But in that time and space, you can call it God, you can call it universe, you can call it whatever you want to call it. I heard a voice telling me there's something more, go find it. I had no idea what that something more was. I had no idea what I was even looking for.
And you had been given a diagnosis at this point. And was
Mhm.
the diagnosis breast cancer?
It was, and it was thyroid.
Oh my gosh. So you're
And
given the diagnosis of thyroid cancer, told that this is going to be a lifelong management issue.
yeah,
Start chemo, start radiation.
yep.
And like you said, the weight of those
Have
words
your
hits
thyroid
totally different.
removed, be on
Yeah,
lifelong medication because you can't live without your thyroid.
right.
And what really started me asking the questions, because I was somehow able to justify removing someone's breast, because anyone can live without your breast. You may not want to live without your breast, but anyone can live without their breast. But you can't live without your thyroid gland. Like, you literally can't live without your thyroid gland. And you have to be on lifelong medication to replace it. And what I couldn't reconcile in that time and space is, if God gave me this organ and I need this organ to live, and they're telling me to take it out and spend the rest of my life replacing it, how does this make sense?
Yeah.
Explain to me.
Mm-hmm.
And if this organ can become damaged, why can't it become undamaged? And I couldn't get answers to these questions.
Did you ask when you started thinking those questions? Because that's what I would do too. Start wondering, like what you said, if it got damaged, what is recovery? Why take it out if there's a chance that we can fix it? When you asked those questions, what kind of answers were you given?
You can't fix it. You can't fix it. It's like, and I understand where they're coming from, right? Because they're not trained to fix it. Nowhere in that conventional medical paradigm is there ever any attempt to reverse disease. Nowhere. Think about how we manage all chronic disease. We don't try to reverse it. We all we do is manage the symptom and wait for the next manifestation of disease. That's all we're doing. All we're doing is suppressing symptoms.
Because I didn't go through medical school, right? So I haven't seen the textbooks that you went through and
Mhm.
you learned under. What has there been any real innovation in those textbooks over the last, let's say, 50 years in terms of everything we're talking about, or has it
Ooh,
remained really stagnant?
it's completely stagnant. And
Wow.
it's because we're really not taught to innovate in the way that we think of innovation. So you are encouraged to make the current paradigm a little better, right? So, in terms of surgery, we're not taught to avoid surgery. We're taught to come up with more innovative techniques to do the same thing, to accomplish the same thing. And so, it's a lot of, for lack of a better term, it's a lot of lipstick on a pig. I mean, that's really what we're talking about. Like, instead of taking this drug, let's take this drug to manage the symptom. But nowhere along the way is anyone saying, why is the symptom there? It's not part of the conversation. It never was. Now, I think doctors are very much pawns in this game. And I don't think they're knowing pawns. I think they're unknowing pawns. I certainly was an unknowing pawn in the game, right? And I thought that I was doing the right thing. And I was, in that I was doing exactly what I was trained to do. And I was really, really good at it.
Really good at it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And think about what a really good medical oncologist is. A really good medical oncologist gives the drugs that they're trained to give. That's what a really good medical oncologist is. Do those drugs help anyone? Probably not. In the long run, do they do more damage than good? Definitely. But a really good medical oncologist gets people through treatment. The people don't die within treatment.
So I'm going to ask you a provocative question from what you just said, because that's where we go in this show. We're going to go deep. Is what you just said about the pills that are thrown at patients. Do they really heal? Probably not. Do they actually probably cause long-term damage and more issues? Probably yes. Then why are we still doing this?
Oh, so that's easy, right? And we can take the perfect example, which was the Women's Health Initiative, right? So the Women's Health Initiative, 2003, probably the biggest study that we will ever have, $1 billion study looking at whether or not hormone replacement caused breast cancer, but whether or not it was beneficial, whether it was good for the heart, good for the brains, good for the bones, whether it managed symptoms of menopause. And the primary investigators had a goal when they set out. And their goal was to get rid of the runaway train that they called hormone replacement. Because if you take away hormone replacement from women, which was actually not only did it help with the secondary side effects or, the hot flashes and that kind of thing, but it also improved cardiovascular health, protected the brain against neurodegeneration, protected the bones against osteoporosis. So if you take that away from women, what are you left with? You're left with a lot of chronic disease. So instead of giving women bioidentical hormone replacement, which the industry really can't make money off of because you can't trademark a molecule of nature. So, and even when they shifted it and did these synthetic non-bioidentical hormones, they were kind of at the end of the line in terms of being able to make money off of them because they were all generic formulations at that point. So what did they do? They took them away. They told us that they were dangerous. And in turn, women then were depressed. So they went on antidepressants. They couldn't sleep. So they went on sleep medications. They got palpitations. So they went on beta blockers. Their lipids went crazy. So they went on statins. They gained weight. Well, we have weight loss drugs. Their body aches. Well, we'll put you on nonsteroidal anti-inflammatories. They have no libido. They're depressed. Great. More antidepressants. They're anxious. Okay, we'll put you on an anxiolytic, and on and on and on it goes. They lose bone density. Okay, we'll put you on a bisphosphonate. And before you know it, instead of having someone on one drug that you're not making any money off of, you have them on 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pharmaceuticals. And all of these pharmaceuticals drive more pharmaceuticals because of their side effects. And they're never making anyone healthier. They're always making you sicker and more dependent on pharmaceuticals. And it's very intentional. I don't think that the doctors that are doing this actually understand, and our system is so fragmented, right? Because the heart guy's worried about the heart, and the bone guy's worried about the bones, and the rheumatologist is worried about the joints, and the gut doctor's worried about the gut, and the neurologist is worried about the sleep and the pain, and no one's talking. So everyone has that person on their pharmaceutical, which, it's just one person, and the pharmaceuticals are cross-talking, but the doctors and the caregivers are not cross-talking. And the only one suffering is the patient. And the patients are really, really suffering. And, we spend at least 3 times more than the rest of the world on healthcare, and we're like 43rd in terms of survival.
Yeah.
like the
The
numbers don't
this
work.
They don't. And the data, I pulled up some of the numbers earlier when I was looking at all of this. So just some quick stats. Breast cancer is the leading cause of death from cancer in the United States for women, second to lung cancer. It's the leading cause of cancer death in women ages 20 to 49. 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer, and 1 in 43 women will die from breast cancer. What do you think when you hear those stats?
Yeah. Well, we're creating a lot of that disease. That's the problem, is that we are literally creating a lot of that disease. And I'm not saying that breast cancer isn't an issue. Of course, breast cancer is an issue. We are living in a very, very toxic world. We are not living on our grandmother's earth. We're not even living on our mother's earth. And the earth that we're living on now is exponentially more toxic. And the breast is without question the canary in the coal mine.
Right. Right.
Because
And
it
it goes
is
back to what you said about how modern medicine has sliced and diced the patient to separate it all out. We'll look
yeah,
at the kidney, we'll look at the arm, we'll look at the lymph, but they've failed in many cases to look at a person as a whole person and how
that's
it's
right.
all interconnected. Even it's interesting. There's some recent studies showing gut health connected to your mental health, and they're
Of
seeing
course, the gut-brain
depression,
axis. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But in 5 years ago, you would have never connected the dots on that because it's all
of
so
course.
separated. So I want to take you back to when you got your diagnosis and you got your care kit of here are your pills, here's your lifetime diagnosis. Good luck. We'll see you in a couple years when you have side effects and you need more. And you said that was the first time that you saw it all differently.
Yeah.
What happened after that?
So I actually refused treatment.
Whoa, okay.
And
That's a big one.
my doctor, who was my friend, told me what I
A
had told.
doctor refusing treatment.
Mhm. And
Wow,
he
okay.
told me exactly what I had told thousands of women before who asked what would happen if they didn't treat their disease. And I would tell them that they're going to die of their disease. And my doctor told me I was going to die. And it's not that I didn't believe him, but I literally couldn't quiet this voice that was telling me there's something more, go find it.
Mm.
And I had no idea what that something more was going to be, but I did go on a journey to heal myself. And God is good. And very, very early on in my journey, I found myself sitting in a lecture hall, and this tall, lanky guy walks on the stage, big toothy grin, and he introduces himself as a functional medicine physician.
Had you
Now,
heard of functional medicine up until this point?
no,
Were they
at
the
this
quacks?
point, I was a doctor for 20 years.
Okay.
I'm still my snooty booty self.
Right.
And all I can think about is,
Yeah.
there's no such thing as a functional medicine physician. Like, what is this
What
quack
is this?
talking
Right.
about?
Yeah.
Right? But then I remembered that I was sick and I was there
Mm.
for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So I check my ego at the door and I tune in, and thank God I did.
Mm.
Because as it turns out, the quack was Dr. Mark Hyman,
No, I didn't know this
who,
part of your
you know,
story. No
it's
way.
not as if, today, if you don't know who Mark Hyman is, you're probably
You need
living
to.
under a rock,
Yeah.
right? But in 2016, not so much.
No.
In
Mm-hmm.
2016, there were many, many, many people who had no idea who Mark Hyman was. And I was one of them. And what I would learn over the next 2 hours of him speaking would not only telescope how I was going to heal and how I was going to reclaim my health, and that was even possible, but that this was going to roadmap how I was going to spend the rest of my life, because I knew exactly why I got sick. I got sick so I could be in that room on that day listening to him speak, because this is a message that there is no way I would have been able to hear had it not been my own journey. Because I was in front of breast cancer since I was a child, and I never, ever asked why. I mean, we were told the answer to feed to people, it's multifactorial, it's nothing you did. And it is nothing you did, in that it's not about blame or shame. It's never about blame or shame. No one gets cancer on purpose. Even people who smoke don't smoke with the intention of getting lung cancer, right? But when we say that it's multifactorial, we rob people of what they need most, and that's their control, their power, their ability to contribute to their health. Because there is nothing, even now, even with all that I know, there is nothing that I can do to make someone else healthy. The only person that can make someone else healthy, like, you're the only person that can make you healthy, right? I can tell you all the things to do. I can lead you in the right direction, but you have to do the thing. You
Yeah.
have to do the work,
Yeah.
right? And what I learned about on that day with Dr. Hyman is that, especially in the world of chronic disease and cancer, all our focus is on the wrong place, because all of our focus in the world of cancer is on the tumor. But the tumor is not the problem. The tumor is the symptom of the problem. And that's why cutting out a tumor doesn't make any impact. That's why giving chemotherapy doesn't make any impact. Cancer is not a surgical deficiency. It's not a chemotherapy deficiency. It's not a anti-hormonal deficiency. It's not a radiation deficiency. It is a reflection of metabolic imbalance, of toxic overload, of environmental imbalance. And until we back up 10 steps and ask the questions, where is this coming from? What is driving this? What do you have that you don't need? What do you need that you don't have? Unless we solve that, we're not changing the trajectory of someone's life. And I knew that that's what I wanted to do.
On that, my question goes straight to modern medicine. We usually wait until we have that symptom.
Yes.
And then we show up at the doctor and we're desperate and it's stage whatever. And now it's a runaway train.
Yeah.
So with functional medicine and how you now practice, how is it different for someone like me who I have no breast cancer diagnosis? There is breast cancer that runs kind of around the edges in my family. But for listeners who are just tuning in and thinking, okay, well, what does this mean then? Do I wait for a diagnosis, or how do I now start proactively reclaiming control of my health? What does that look like? How is that different than modern medicine?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, because what you're pointing out is absolutely true. Our system is so very broken, our conventional medical system, because it's built for failure, right? No one gets into the system unless you fail. And that's the only way to get into the system. It's not like you can go to your doctor now and say, "Doc, I want you to make me as healthy as I can be so that I never develop any disease." Well, that person doesn't have any idea what to do with you, right? They're like, what are
Okay,
you
go
talking
home.
about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you don't need me.
Sure.
I'm only here if you're sick. I'm only
Yes.
here if you're broken. I'm only here if you
Yes.
failed, right?
Right.
And doctors don't get paid for healthy people. They only get paid for sick people. This is part of what's really broken in our system. Is the only thing that's incentivized is sickness. That's the only thing. Whereas in functional medicine, our goal is completely different. Our goal is optimal health. So, even as much as when you look at what we call acceptable lab values as compared to what your average primary care physician would consider acceptable lab values, or even a cardiologist or an endocrinologist, we're not even speaking the same language. Like, our windows are tight.
Wow.
Our windows are real, real tight. So if you go to a functional medicine doctor and they run your lab panels, if they say all your labs are normal, that is meaningful. And if all your labs are normal, you feel amazing. Whereas most people who are going to their primary care doctors and getting their labs run, and they're told their labs are normal, but they feel like crap. They have no energy.
Yes.
Their skin is dull.
Brain
They're not
fog.
sleeping.
Sure.
They have brain fog.
Digestive
They can't
issues.
remember. They have no libido. They've gained weight. They've lost their confidence. They've lost their mojo. Their body aches, hurts. They don't have the recovery that they used to have. They don't have the stamina that they used to have. And we've normalized that because in conventional medicine, they don't know what to do with that. They don't know how to help you. Like, you can't have a conversation with them about mitochondrial health, because to them, mitochondria was something that they learned about the first year in medical school, and then they were told to forget it, right? Like, you take your biochemistry in the first year of medical school and it's like, okay, you know that. Now we're going to teach you about how to be a doctor, right? And so it's two very, very, very different worlds where, we're not looking for average. We're not looking for the mean. We're not looking for mediocrity. We're looking for optimal function. That is our goal. And so when your body is functioning optimally, you have all the energy you want. You can sleep. You do have a libido. You are excited about life and optimistic and energetic and all of those things. And you heal properly and you can do all the things that you want to do physically and mentally. And it is absolutely looking at that person from a holistic standpoint and saying, let's make it all work.
And let's see how it's working with tight windows, not big, wide.
Yes.
Well, and it makes sense because modern medicine would leave the windows wide open, because then if a patient is okay and misses those markers, then they're going to end up in the pawn of the pharmaceutical company. It's all just a dirty laundry scheme. I hate it so much. I think it's absolutely criminal.
And it's a very cooperative plan between big food, big ag, big pharma, big medicine. I mean, they all have the same goal. Get them sick, keep them sick.
And it's been going on for so long. That's why I asked the question about how long has this been going on? Like, where have we had any huge innovation in mainstream medical health? And like you said, the textbooks they're not being updated. It's still the same thing because it works, because it's such a, it's like you said, it's just this collaborative effort to keep people sick and then to keep them in the hands of big ag, big pharma.
And, I think part of the problem is, people, they go into medical school with the best of intentions. They really do. And I'm not just talking about doctors. I'm talking about nurses too. I'm talking about, all the different healthcare providers. I think that everyone goes in with really, really, really good intention. And the problem is that once you're in, critical thinking is not encouraged. So they might have wanted you to think critically before, but once you get in, they're really not looking for the rebel rousers. They're not looking for people to ask the questions, why? Why are we doing this way? Can't we be doing it better? Can't we be doing it smarter? Is this really the right thing to do? Like, they don't want to be challenged. And then, so it's really hard to step outside of that system once you get in, for a whole host of reasons. I mean, not for nothing, but my medical education was $500,000.
Right.
So,
Yes.
when I got out of training, what did I do? I put my head down and I worked
hard.
because I had to,
Sure.
I had to pay off my debt.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you get married and you have children and you buy a home.
You have a
and
lifestyle.
You're sucked into, I didn't have the freedom or the liberty to look outside of the system. I was putting my head down and working. And I think that's what happens with most people.
Absolutely. And it took you getting so sick, and then by that amazing miracle, seeing Dr. Hyman take the stage, for you to pull yourself out of the system.
Yes.
So you pulled out of mainstream medicine after
did.
being a top breast surgeon in Philly, right? You're at the top of your game. You pull out, which is so brave. I commend you, because I don't think a whole lot of people would have done that. Yeah, or crazy, but hey, you're here and I love it. I'm here for it. So you pull out and you're fighting your diagnosis.
So what I did was I enrolled in the Institute for Functional Medicine.
Okay.
And I spent the next 3 years really submerged in the study of functional medicine, and all the while healing myself,
Mm.
right? And trying to apply what I learned and trying to figure it out. I wish that I would have asked for help because I got a lot sicker before I got better.
Mhm.
However, all's well that ends well. It took me 3 years to really recover my health. And it also took me 3 years to complete my functional medicine training. I think that, you can probably, if you're not working a full-time job and being a full-time mom and all of those other things, I think you can probably do that quicker. But it took me 3 years to get through that and to get my certification. And once I came out on the other side, it was a bell that I couldn't unring. I actually remember the day that I resigned from surgery because I resigned over a very specific patient. I had a 19-year-old come into my office, and she was coming in for a breast mass. And she was actually wheeled in by her mother because she had such progressive MS that she couldn't walk the 30 feet from the elevator to my office.
So sad.
And I had just met Terry Walls the week before. Do you know Terry?
I
Have you ever
don't.
met Terry?
No.
Terry is this brilliant, brilliant physician who she was an internal medicine doctor who was diagnosed with primary progressive MS. And within 2 years, despite the fact that she is, on faculty at an academic institution and has access to all of the clinical trials and all of the drugs that there are to offer, she progressed so quickly through MS that she was in a zero gravity wheelchair
My
because she couldn't
goodness.
even support her own body weight
Oh my gosh.
and got let go by her hospital.
Mm.
And so she decided that she was a lifelong vegetarian and a very grain-based vegetarian. I'm sorry if you're into grains. I'm very anti-grain.
You are welcome. We love hearing your thoughts. Keep them coming.
And so she did a lot of things, a lot of natural things. She did electrostim and um, but mostly she took grains out of her diet and added in a lot of whole plants. And for a lifelong vegetarian, started to incorporate animals into
Wow.
her diet.
Uh-huh.
And she got better. And she took all the processed food out of her diet and she got better. And within 2 months, she was back to riding her bike. And within a couple months after that, she was riding 20 miles a day. And she got hired back on the faculty. And the chairman of her department said, not for nothing, but we need to develop a protocol here and help other people with MS. So she developed the Walls Protocol and she wrote the Walls Protocol. And now she has helped hundreds of thousands of people reverse their MS without drugs by just changing what they eat and how they move and what they do and how they sleep and their toxic load and all of that. And so I had just met Terry and had just been so inspired by her
Sure.
story. So I walk into this meeting with this 19-year-old with MS, and I'm like a kid in a candy store.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I am so excited. I can barely
Mhm.
contain myself. And I'm going on and on and on about Dr. Walls and her story. And there's hope, and you can reverse this disease. And after about a minute, she puts her hand up in my face and she said, "Doc, are you going to do my biopsy or not?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Not everyone wants to help themselves. Some people just want the pill or the procedure or whatever you can do for them because they don't want to do it for them because they either don't believe they can or don't believe it'll work, or they're just so ingrained in the system to believe that certain things can't be reversed." I mean, we've been taught for decades that diabetes can't be reversed, right?
Right.
Except that we're reversing it all the time now. Every day we're reversing it because diabetes, for the most part, is from what you eat and what you drink. Right?
I think a big part of it too is that we have become so comfortable with outsourcing our health. You know, we just think that's the American way. We get sick, we go to the doctor, they give us something in a shiny pill bottle, and and then we live to see another day until we need them again. But we haven't really taken ownership over our health. And I was actually forced into
And the
learning how to
system doesn't
own.
want you to take
No,
ownership over your
they
health.
don't. And I think it takes a lot of times for a lot of us, it takes something traumatic to force us into realizing, like you, and like me, my past, there was a traumatic event that modern medicine could not answer. I was on the phone with some of the highest level at Mayo Clinic, at Rady's Children's Hospital, and they went like this, wiped their hands and said, "We don't know what to do. Just keep on doing what you're doing." And I said, that is not an answer. And so it forced me to figure out other solutions. And I'm so thankful for that, because it brought me to this point where it's like, oh, there is another way. There is another way. And, it would have been a lifetime of antibiotics and steroids and medicines and side effects and asthma and allergies and eczema if we wouldn't have been forced to look for another way and another solution. So let's get into the innovations in breast care and what you are now championing as tip of the spear, because you did leave the modern medicine world and you are, like I said, tip of the spear in this incredible era of innovation in breast health. You have this groundbreaking imaging technology that I am so excited to experience. I was going to come out to you, but I haven't been able to yet. And I just can't wait to. But I want you to explain about this radiation-free, FDA-cleared technology that has 40 times the resolution of an MRI, but it's like a spa treatment. It looks amazing. It does not look
amazing.
it doesn't look like a clinic.
There are women who come into my center and they are like weeping with gratitude.
For anyone listening, you need to go check out your images, because it does look like I want to go there with my girlfriends. Like, I want to go out to a nice lunch and then come to your clinic.
It's a beautiful destination to go to with your girlfriend. So I opened Perfection Imaging in August of 2024 because the way that we are screening for breast cancer, not only is it inaccurate, it is barbaric and it is actually causing some cancers. I mean, we are literally using a test to screen for cancer that causes cancer. It is insane. And in any other scenario, you would think that you were out of your mind to do it, right? And just think about, had we tried to do this with men. Think about if we had said to men, okay, listen, prostate cancer is a problem.
I can see where you're going with this.
So what we're going to do is we're going to have you come every year. We're going to put your prostate between these two metal plates. We're going to apply about 20 to 50 pounds of pressure. You're going to hold your breath for a couple seconds, and we're just going to put some radiation through there so that we can take a picture. How well do you think that program would have taken off?
It would never have gotten in the air. Like, it would never have gotten off the runway.
Where do you think the stronghold would have come with that? But women were like, okay, great, I'll do it. Sounds good. Like, we listen because we think it's for the greater good, right? We've had that message hammered into our head. Mammograms save lives. Mammograms save lives. And we believe it. And we believe it because the narrative was believable. It was logical, right? We were told that breast cancer growth is linear and predictable. So breast cancers start really small and they grow to some critical size, at which point they're going to metastasize. So if you can find it before it hits that critical point, you can save lives, you can save breasts, women can have less treatment. It's a really logical theory, right?
It sounds good. It's a good sale.
Yeah.
It
and
sells
everyone's
well.
like, oh yeah, early detection.
Sure.
Yeah, it's going to save lives. It's going to save breasts, less treatment. Let's do it. Right? Only it's not true. Breast cancer growth is neither linear nor predictable. So breast cancer doesn't start really small and grow to some predictable size and then become metastatic. It's not how it works. Breast cancer is all based on biology, and it is what it is from the beginning. And if it's going to be metastatic, it's metastatic from the beginning. And if it's not going to be metastatic, it's not going to be metastatic. And it almost doesn't matter what you do or when you find it.
Oh, that's
And
so different than what we're told.
of course,
Like completely
because,
mind blowing what you just said.
because the truth doesn't sell mammograms. Right? The truth is, mammograms have no impact on survival. They certainly don't have any positive impact on survival. And no matter how many mammograms we do every year, the same number of women die of breast cancer. No matter how many mammograms we do every year, the same number of women present with aggressive disease. We are not preventing the aggressive disease, and we are not preventing the deaths from breast cancer. And when we look at the data, we have long, large scale studies proving that mammogram does not positively impact survival. So when we look at the Swedish trial, 600,000 women, half of them got mammogram, half of them didn't. This is universal healthcare in Sweden. Everyone has the same access to care. Everyone gets the same kind of care. So the controls are all there. And when you look at the two groups, the same exact number of women die of breast cancer in both groups.
That's
And the
shocking.
only difference between them is that if you use mammogram to screen, there are 20 to 30% more breast cancers. More.
How in the world are we still doing this?
Yes. It's
Oh my gosh.
an amazing question. How and why in the world are we still doing this? Now, I think there was some belief that maybe if you look at the population in general, mammograms don't save lives, but let's look at young women, right? Maybe if you screen young women, you can make an impact on survival. So we looked at young women. The Canadian breast cancer screening study was women 40 to 59, young women, right? 90,000, 45,000 of them get mammogram, 45,000 of them just have physical examination. Again, universal health care. Everyone has the same access to care. Everyone gets the same kind of care. We have the same exact results. The same exact number of women die of breast cancer in each group. And the only difference between them is if you screen with breast cancer, if you screen with mammogram, there's 23% more breast cancers.
That's insane to me. It's absolutely insane. Like it makes zero sense why with that data and those studies why we're still doing
But
this.
it makes a lot of dollars.
It makes a lot of dollars. It doesn't make much sense, but it makes a lot of dollars. That's sick. That is really sick.
Yes.
Criminal.
And I actually think that the doctors that are caught up in the system really do believe that they're doing the right thing. They really do believe that they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, but then more doctors need to become aware of these studies.
Yes. It's so hard to believe that they've been lied to, that they just don't believe that they've been lied to. Despite the fact that the data is there and has been there. We've known for decades.
That's crazy.
Don't save lives.
Yeah, I had a mammogram done, and mine was, I've only had one done, but it was after my first birth. And my doctor freaked me out. He came in, after you give birth, they come in and they feel you. And he's like, oh, there's a lump there. And he used the word cancer. And it sent me into total like nightmare zone, and you're already like just had a baby, you're in the hospital, you need to go get that seen right away. I'm very concerned. It's a very large lump. So I bring my newborn in with my husband. I remember breastfeeding her and like crying at the appointment. They did biopsy, ultrasound, mammogram. I exit the biopsy. And they told me, we'll give you the results. And we left a stent in so that we can measure every time you get a mammogram. I didn't know I consented to having some foreign something left in my breast tissue.
Clip in.
Yeah. So I was one of those people who was given like the scare tactic of you need to go in and get all this done. I didn't even have time to think about what was happening. But now it's like, I would never do that again. I'm mad that they left something in my body that I didn't ever have proper informed consent on. But what do we do now then?
They really are supposed to tell you about that.
Yeah, no, I found out at the very end. So what do we do now then? What's the solution?
Yeah. So I'm so glad you asked, but I do want to make one more point because If you are not saving lives, but you are saving breasts, I still think that that would be a worthwhile cause. But when screening with mammogram, the only result has been an increase in the mastectomy rate by 20%. So, I mean, this program is literally a failure across the board. But for a really long time, we didn't have alternatives. They really weren't there. There were no real viable alternatives. There are now. There are now. And that's why I've been so vocal about my platform. So I don't rely on imaging alone. I don't think anyone should rely on imaging alone. We know from the mammogram data alone, I mean, mammogram will miss 40% of cancers in dense breasts, which is 40% of the population. So, the fact that people go and have a mammogram and they're told that their results are normal and they kind of rest on that, only to 3 or 4 months later feel their own cancer in the breast. That is one of the major, major faults of mammogram. It has so many, I could go on all day. So my screening triad is that, first of all, I think everyone should be doing self-breast examination. Um, every woman thinks that her breasts are lumpy, like spoiler alert. It's okay. Just own your lumps, right? Know what your breasts feel like when they're normal so that you can know what they feel like when something's changed. So if you are premenopausal, if you're still getting your period, you should be doing that breast examination day 7 of your cycle, because that's the time of the month where your breasts are the least stimulated. So technically they should be the least lumpy then.
Okay. What does
If you're
that look like?
postmenopausal, it doesn't
How do you
matter.
examine for people who are listening and not watching?
Yeah.
What
So
is
for
that?
people who are listening and not watching, first of all, what you always want to do is you always want to start with looking, and
Okay.
you look straight on and you turn 45 degrees. So you're looking at the sides and you're looking with your arms down by your side. You're looking with your arms up over your head and you're looking with your arms on your hips.
Okay.
And that way you're like moving the tissue around and watching the movement of your breasts and making sure that there's nothing that's getting pulled in, there's nothing that's sticking out, that your nipples are not retracting. And if you find that these things are happening, it does not mean that you have cancer. It just means that you need to be looked at by a professional who is well versed in what any of this means.
Mm.
And then if you're large breasted, you're going to want to examine your breast lying down. If you're small breasted, you can examine your breast in the shower. And what you're going to want to do is have something, either oil or lotion or something that is going to take away friction
Okay.
so that your hand can easily glide over
Glide.
your breast. And you want to use your fingertips because that's the most sensitive part of your hand. And so with the arm over your head of the side that you're examining, right? So you're going to want to put your
So you're
arm
like
up over
this,
your head, right?
and then
So
I'm
if
examining
you're,
this
if you're
side.
examining your right arm, your right breast, you're going to want your right arm up, and then you're going to start with your fingertips at your collarbone and walk them down smoothly over your breast towards your nipple.
Just towards your nipple. And
Yep.
you stop.
Just towards your nipple and get to your nipple and stop. And then go up to your collarbone again, move over a little bit and run your fingertips down your breasts. So with like light to moderate pressure. And if there's going to be something there, you're going to feel a lump in the road, a bump in the road. And you're just going to continue to go around your breasts in a radial fashion, like a starburst around your breast all the way.
So
And
you
just
go bottom
feel,
up when you get to the bottom.
yep,
Okay.
bottom up. Yep, top down, bottom up, inside out, outside in.
Do you start
And
at your armpits when you're going
mhm,
in? Are you in
I
there?
do.
Okay.
I do. And you just feel for what feels like a bump in the road. And then, if you want to like use your fingers to kind of move it back and forth or whatever if you feel something, but the most sensitive way to examine your breast is to run your fingertips over it all together. And so Do that once a month. You don't have to examine your breasts every day. You don't have to be obsessed with it. If anyone forgets, just go on my Instagram at Dr. Jenn Simmons, and my Jen has 2 N's, and you can just look at it's pinned to the top of my Instagram, how to do a breast exam. So everyone needs to be doing a breast exam. The second thing I have everyone doing is something called the ARIA tears test. I don't know if you've heard of this.
Never heard of this.
This
So
is
I'm
a
excited
test
to hear.
that measures that looks to the fluid in your eye to determine if you have elevated levels of 2 inflammatory proteins, the S100A8 and S100A9 proteins.
Never. Okay,
Now
this is
these
completely brand new. You're looking
Yeah.
at the fluid in my eyeballs.
Yes. So it's a little tiny piece of litmus paper. You
Uh-huh.
just fold down the corner. It goes right inside of your eyelid. You close your eye for 5 minutes, take the paper out, send it off. It's completely painless. It's a 5-minute at-home test. You don't have to go anywhere or do anything. And the test measures if you have critical levels of these 2 inflammatory proteins. And if you do, you are at risk for breast cancer. So it has a 93% sensitivity, meaning that if you have breast cancer, it's going to pick it up 93%
My
of the time.
gosh, this is
So that is
wild.
more sensitive than any of the other imaging modalities, including QT, except for MRI.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I am using the ARIA test to
Mhm.
determine who does and who does not need imaging.
Oh, so that's kind
I
of the
don't
precursor. Let's get the ARIA test and then determine if you need to go in for your
Yes.
spa experience.
Yes. So now the specificity of this examination is 58%, meaning that 58% of the time the test is negative when you don't have breast cancer, and 42% of the time it's positive even though you don't have breast cancer.
Hmm.
But let me be clear. There are no false positives with this test. So if you have a clinically positive test, you do have the inflammatory precursors to breast cancer. And if you do nothing, every 6 months, another 11% will develop breast cancer.
Hmm.
So
So it basically catches it incredibly early.
incredibly early, which means that you
can
can
take control.
actually prevent a breast cancer diagnosis.
Oh my
So
gosh.
this is, as far as I'm concerned, the only preventative test out there currently.
Wow.
Now, this will not be the only preventative test because this technology is brilliant and very, very easy to knock off. And there will be multiple companies who will make their version of this test. So, and I'm not particular, I just want people to have this test. I want people to have this power. I want people to have this information. I want people to have this opportunity to prevent a diagnosis because, here, this is a gift. This is a gift. This
It's
is
such an
you.
early way, like
Yes.
an early discovery.
Yes. This is
Yes.
you being handed the 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 information that you need, right? And it's up to you what you do with that information. So
Is that something that would you have to go to a functional doctor to get that? Or
no, you can go to aria.care, AURIA.care, and order the kit yourself. This is direct to consumer. Now you
wow.
can use my code Dr. Jen 20, DRJENN 20 to get 20% off. It is a very, very, very affordable test. The test with my code is $130.
Oh wow. Okay, so it's very affordable.
Very affordable.
Hmm.
And look at this information that it's giving you. Look at this opportunity that it's giving you. So if you have a negative ARIA test, big exhale and know that you're doing things right.
Yeah.
Right? And if you have a clinically positive ARIA test, doesn't mean that you're doing things wrong, but it means that something's going on. There's an imbalance there.
Yeah, and you can get on top. It gives you the room to get on top of it.
And you have the ability to correct that environment. Now, anyone with a clinically significant ARIA test, I tell them to go get imaging.
Okay. Now that's where you would come in and
Yeah.
what you do.
Yes. So now the imaging that I advocate for is called QT, and this uses sound waves transmitted through a warm water bath that collects 200,000 times more data points than MRI and creates a true 3D reconstruction of the breast with 40 times the resolution of MRI.
It's wild. And I want you to explain to people what this, because the first time I saw it, I was like, what?
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah.
Explain what it looks like so people can have in their head what this imaging, because we're all
Yeah.
used to the mammogram. This is
Yeah.
very different.
So you are lying face down on a table.
Like a massage bed.
It's an ergonomically designed table so that you're very, very comfortable, and you can decide, like a massage table, you can decide if you want to be face down. We have, one of the donuts if you want to be face down like you're getting a massage, or if you want to turn your head from one side to the other, it's completely up to you, however you're the most comfortable. Each breast takes about 10 minutes, and literally all we're doing is submerging your breast in warm water. It is like this delightful experience where everyone has the same thing to say. I feel like I was at a spa.
Yeah.
I took a nap. I meditated. I had a rabbi's wife in here who said, I just spent the last 20 minutes with God. Right? Like it has turned breast cancer screening into a beautiful, transformative experience where people dread going for breast cancer screening. And now they're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go with my girlfriends on Saturday and we're all going to get our scans and then go to lunch. Right? Like I've turned breast cancer screening into this amazing experience. So I can't tell you the joy that that brings to me.
And
Now,
it's without all the junk. You're not getting the radiation.
right?
You're not getting all,
Like
like you were
it's
talking about.
100% safe.
Yes.
There's no radiation, there's no compression, there's no gadolinium because when you have an MRI, even though there's no compression, I don't know if you have never had a breast MRI. They are miserable. They're uncomfortable. It is so loud. And you have to get
The
gadolinium,
contrast dye, right?
which is a heavy metal.
Yeah, yeah. I had a family member have a horrific reaction to the contrast, and it took years to recover
Oh,
from.
I projectile vomited.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was, my body was like, absolutely not.
Mhm. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
poison. It's poison.
it's
That's the
poison.
crazy thing is how this is all, it just keeps pointing back to modern medicine is it's hurting us. Like
Mhm.
it is not innovative. It's stuck somewhere in the past where the rich coffers stay rich, but there has been so little progress made. And that's why I'm so excited about what you're doing because you are leading the way, Jen. You are leading the
Yeah.
way for women to actually take back control in a way that's progressive.
There is no perfect imaging, right? So QT is not going to pick up absolutely everything. It will pick up calcifications. It does pick up masses. It does pick up architectural distortion. It picks up everything that everyone else picks up. It also has the ability to do volumetric measuring, which no one else can. So if we see a lesion in the breast, we can bring someone back for another study in 60 days and measure the volume and measure the doubling time. So we know that cancers have a doubling time of less than 100 days, and things that aren't cancer or aren't meaningful have a greater doubling time. So we are saving women from unnecessary biopsies, of which 80% of biopsies in this country are done for benign lesions.
That
So
was
we are
me.
we're saving women from overdiagnosis because those things that are not growing, we're not diagnosing them. We're not telling people to go get biopsied for those things that your body is going to take care of on its own, for those cancers even that would never have become clinical disease that we've seen in all of these clinical trials.
Hmm.
Because that's the difference between them. And so I don't want to oversell the technology in that, is it going to pick up every single thing? No, it's not. However, when you pair it with a physical examination and the ARIA test, it is that program is going to pick up the things that are meaningful. And that's what I'm after. I want to save women from unnecessary biopsies, from unnecessary worry, from unnecessary expense, and especially from overdiagnosis and overtreatment, because overdiagnosis and overtreatment in this country is a huge issue. And when you diagnose a woman with breast cancer, you forever change her life, and not for the better.
Even just that stress load on your mind and your body and the markers, it is a trauma. It's a trauma. Yeah. This is so good. Okay, I want to ask you about you talked about how we just live in this toxic world, and we've talked now about the ARIA test and the imaging that you offer. So for women like myself who I'm not trending toward breast cancer right now. I'm in the clear, and there are a lot of women who are listening to this thinking, okay, I'm okay right now. How do we stay in that lane? What are the things we can do right now to take control of our health so we don't put ourselves into the predisposition camp where then we end up with cancer, breast cancer?
Yeah. So we test, we don't guess, right? So that's why I tell people to get an ARIA test every year. If you are someone at high risk, you have a BRCA mutation, you have a strong family history, if you have any reason to believe that you're high risk, you can do the ARIA test twice a year, right? But we're testing and not guessing. We are learning if we have inflammation in our body. And if we have inflammation, and again, you may be like me and have had a mold exposure and you didn't know it, right? Like that's what drove my disease mostly. I mean, I was also overworking, and
oh my gosh,
I wasn't nourishing properly. And, it wasn't just one thing, and it's never just one thing, but there are a lot of things that happen to us that we don't know about, right? So we have to continue to monitor our health and make sure that we are staying healthy. Really dial into yourself, because I think that's really important. And something that I have found has been an absolute life changer, game changer for me, is knowing my nutrigenomics. So there are a couple of tests out there that I use, that I go to, that I think are really meaningful. This is different than like the 23andMe, where you're measuring a bunch of useless genes that you can't do anything about, that you can't control.
And then all of our data gets sent to China too.
Yes.
So there's that too.
Yes. And then there's that.
Little detail.
I'm talking about measuring actionable genes that you can do things about, so that you learn how to nurture your nature. So I either use the DNA 360 or the nutrition genome. And the kinds of things that you learn from this are, what kind of diet should you be on? Because even though I advocate for a whole food, plant-based, low glycemic, grain-free diet, I also don't stipulate where you get your protein from, because where you get your protein from and where I get my protein from may not be the same. And they probably shouldn't be the same, because my genetic makeup is different than your genetic makeup. So I may be really good at extracting protein from plants, and you may be really bad at extracting protein from plants. So if I put you on a plant-based diet, you're going to get
decimate me. Yeah.
Right? So I spent many years as a vegan and as a non-supplementing vegan, not knowing that I have no ability to turn beta carotene into vitamin A.
Yeah, the sickest I have ever been in my life is when I went vegan for 2 years. I was consistently vegan, and I ended up in a world of hurt. I was so ill. My hair was falling out. I was so emaciated, thin, yellow. My body just didn't, and I did everything right. I was like a diehard vegan. It was like my body rejected that plan.
Yes. So we are all bio-individual, and what's right for me is not right for you, and vice versa, right? And so I fully believe in testing. I fully believe in knowing what you should eat, when you should eat, what your fasting schedule should look like, because we all need to be fasting. That is evolutionarily true, right? We didn't have refrigerators. We didn't have processed food that was shelf stable for 2 years.
Yeah.
You ate when there was food available, and a lot of the time you spent fasting because if you wanted to eat, you had to go out and gather it or kill it, right? And we are modern beings living on a very old gene code. Our genes have not changed that much. And so we need to honor that. We need to respect that. And
I
so,
just love, I got to interrupt you because I love even what you're talking about right now. I'm like, this is even innovative. Like you are talking about guess what? It's not one size fits all model. Like it
mhm,
gets down to you as a unique individual, your family, your heritage, the tribe you came from. Like it goes so far back. And that makes so much sense because we had tribes living out in the desert and we had water wanderers and we had like, there are so
yes,
many different
yes,
factions of humanity that it absolutely makes sense that it's not just a conveyor belt system that's going to work for everyone.
no,
No, but modern mainstream American medicine, that's what they use. And they don't talk about even what you're talking about, where it's like, let's actually dive into who you are and what your body is going to agree with. That's amazing.
yes. So when you think about it, like my family comes from the Ukraine, and I was, someone was saying to me, "Oh, you should be cooking all your food in coconut oil. And if
Hmm.
you want to have something sweet in your coffee, you should put coconut manna in your coffee." And so I was like, "Okay, I'll try that." So this was very early on before I like thought about all of it in the way that I think about it now. And, like, lo and behold, I gained 10 pounds. I'm like, my joints hurt, like, everything hurts, and I'm like, hang on, hang on. My family is from the Ukraine. Where would my family have gotten coconuts?"
On a ship somewhere, if
Like,
they were lucky.
there's no way that my genes would be eating coconuts.
Hmm.
Like, I would have had no way
Hmm.
to expose myself to coconuts.
Right.
So it's things like that that you learn about yourself when you test
So fascinating.
how you should be eating, how you should be fasting, even how you should be sleeping, how you should be moving, how sensitive you are to how sensitive your clock genes are, and especially the way you detox
Mm.
and what you can and cannot tolerate. So, we have different detoxification genes that deal with what we get from the air, what we get from our gut, what we get from our skin, and we need to respect that. So if you're someone that has terrible detox genes, you got to be careful with your toxins. You have to be ultra careful in what comes in, and you also have to have routine practices on getting them out.
This goes back to what we were talking about outsourcing. You are literally advocating for learning your individual self, your
Yes.
body,
Yes.
instead of just outsourcing to what medicine tells you the food pyramid of the moment is. I love all of this. And now you're making me want to go do all of those tests. Where do people find all of what is that something that they would come to you for? Can they do this long distance with you?
I only work virtually now. I no longer see people in person, and I have a whole team of health coaches that are trained to run this test, to interpret this test for you, and to give you your plan. So all of this is on my website at realhealthmd.com, my medical practice, and
This is a
these are
great Mother's Day gift. This would be
it
a
is a
fantastic.
phenomenal Mother's Day gift. To
Yes.
give your mother the gift of health, to
Mhm.
give your best friend the gift of health, to give your daughter the gift of health for Mother's Day. I mean, what more could you
Yeah.
do?
Or any holiday. Well, and it's a summer gift. It's a Christmas gift. What other
It's all of
anniversary
it.
gift?
It's
I
all of
want it
it.
all. I want it all because
Yeah.
I've never learned about like everything you're talking about myself and how I do really good when it comes to nutrition and health. But this is all brand new. Everything you are talking about. When I asked you, like, oh, what would you recommend? I thought you were going to say, well, limit your exposure to EMF and, don't drink soy milk. And then you're like, well, you can find out what your body likes and doesn't like. What?
I'm a big believer in test, don't guess. And
Hmm.
I think one of the most meaningful things that comes out of that testing is, everyone, and I'm sure you're included in this, everyone has this supplement graveyard where it's like there's a zillion supplements and you don't know what's working and what's not working and what you should be taking and what you shouldn't be
Dr.
taking.
Jenn, were you just over here? I mean, you're preaching to the choir right now. Don't look, don't look.
But this is the way to get rid of the supplement graveyard, because this is the way to know where your body needs support. And it's so important. And, I only work with people that do this kind of testing because I probably am one of the only people in the country who are, and, I think there's only a handful of people in the world who are out saying that you can give women with a history of breast cancer hormone replacement. And
Yeah, that's provocative.
it is very provocative, but I tend to find myself in that space time and time
That's why I
again.
love you, though. That's why I love you.
But that these are really our forgotten women. That in this day and age where Oprah's having conversations about menopause, it seems like almost everyone is having these conversations about menopause, but no one's talking about the women who are forced into menopause or whose menopause is put on steroids because they've had breast cancer. And this whole narrative about hormones cause breast cancer really, really, really serve a purpose, because it makes women reliant on, 8, 9, 10 more pharmaceuticals, none of which help. And they're miserable. This is the forgotten population. This is the forgotten woman. This is the title to my next book, because this is the woman who was treated for breast cancer and told that she should be grateful to be alive. And she is grateful, but it's very hard to feel grateful when your hair is falling out or gone and you can't think, you can't find your words, you're depressed, you're anxious, you can't sleep, you've gained weight, you don't recognize your body, your clothes don't fit. You have aches and pains everywhere. You have no libido. Sex is unwanted and painful. You have frequent
So sad.
urinary tract infections, frequent yeast infections. And your doctor's like, yeah, but just be grateful to be alive. And you're
Yep.
like,
And here's another pill to help
yeah,
your
I
libido
don't
go up.
feel very grateful. And this doesn't feel very much like life.
It's like a hamster wheel.
Yeah. And the truth is that the doctors just perpetuate this because that's what they're told to do, because they've been fed this very overly simplistic and reductive narrative. And these women are not getting the help and attention that they deserve. They're being forgotten about. And I am, as much as I'm on a mission to replace mammogram with safe, painless, effective screening, I am also on a mission to help these women. We have 4 million women in the United States living with a breast cancer diagnosis. And I want them to live a life worth living.
Thrive, to
I want to make
thrive, not
sure,
just
yes,
live, to thrive.
yes.
Yes.
And not in that like hokey, let's all put on pink t-shirts and smile. Like, I want them to feel it. I want their life to be everything that it should be and rewarding, and for them to actually feel good, feel strong, feel confident, be all of that. And it's possible.
It is possible.
But you have to give them the same opportunities that everyone else is getting. And the data is there. We have the data. We know that women who take hormone replacement have better outcomes even if they get breast cancer. And women who have had breast cancer and take hormone replacement have better outcomes. So there's no reason not to do it. It's just that our providers aren't trained. And so they're afraid. And so they don't. And they confuse I don't know with no.
It's hard to not get angry at, I know, like, I do have a lot of sympathy for the doctors and the nurses who have gone through the programming. That's what I'm
Me
going to call it,
too.
programming. But it's hard to not get angry too, where I'm like, in this modern day and age where information is at your fingertips, I can pull up the studies. And you have doctors who just refuse to look beyond the programming. And it's
I
hard
know.
to be frustrated. But I do think that there's a wave of awakening, and it's from conversations like this. And it's from women who are listening now, and now they have questions for their providers, and they're going to seek out alternative healing. One question I had for you, just going back to the forgotten women that you are so passionate about, is if someone is in that camp, which I'm sure there are going to be listeners who are in that camp or whose mom or aunt. I mean, the stats say that absolutely this is going to connect and register with those people. Where can they turn to? Who do they go
Real
to?
Health MD. We are treating these women, and we are providing them the same advantages and opportunities that everyone else has.
So they do not need to be in Philadelphia to.
So first of all, I'm opening 50 perfection imaging and wellness centers
Okay,
around the
this is
country.
huge news. Congratulations.
So right now, you would have to come to Philadelphia or one of the states that I'm licensed in, but that's not going to be for long. I'm opening 50 in the next 5 years. So everyone who wants access to this technology and everyone who wants access to my care is going to be. Now, you're not going to be seeing me. I'm a very busy bee, but I have dedicated myself to training a team of providers, and I am starting a provider course so that because I want people to be able to approach the person with a history of breast cancer with confidence, because women with a history of breast cancer are people too, and they deserve the same advantages that everyone else is afforded. So I'm teaching providers, I'm employing providers, and I'm going to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to live the life that they deserve.
Okay, I want to go through with you real quick. I'm going to put you in the hot seat. We talked about this before, that I always pitch it to my communities across social media. If there's an exciting guest, I'll say, hey, do you have any questions? And this one delivered results. Thousands and thousands of questions came in. So we're just going to popcorn through them. Okay, flax seeds to shrink tumors before operating. Mercola wrote about it years ago. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah. So what flax seeds do is they actually act on the ER alpha receptor. So we have two kinds of receptors in our breast: the ER alpha, which is the receptor that triggers growth, and the ER beta, which triggers regression of the breast cells. So if you use flax to block the growth receptors, you will actually get regression. So I am a huge advocate of flax seeds. They have to be ground and they oxidize really easily. So your best bet is to keep your flax seeds unground in the freezer. Take your 2 tablespoons out. I use like a little coffee grinder, grind them up. It takes literally 10 seconds, and use them on your salad, use them in your smoothie, sprinkle them on top of your soup. There's 1,000 things that you can do with ground flax, and you can also treat ground flax like an egg. So it works as a binder. If you mix a little bit of water in it, it can serve as a binder. So I make crab cakes because I don't eat any shellfish. I make crab cakes out of hearts of palm and artichoke hearts,
Yum.
and I smash them up, and I put celery and onions and red pepper and Old Bay, and I hold it all together with flax
Flax.
egg.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Who wouldn't? I wouldn't have never
Yeah.
known. Okay. Someone recently had a mastectomy. She
Mm-hmm.
still has one breast that is healthy. How can she prevent cancer in the other breast?
So she can read my book, The Smart Woman's Guide to Breast
And
Cancer.
I have it right here,
Because
and highly recommend this book. It's so fun. Look at that cover. And it is, I noticed on the cover that Mark Hyman wrote a little, like a blast on it. And what a full circle moment for you.
I mean, I don't think he was going to, and then he heard my story and he was like, "Okay."
Okay. Well, this is what he says. He says it's for any woman facing a breast cancer diagnosis. This book is a must read. It offers not just hope, but a practical and scientifically grounded approach to healing. And I love that he called that out, because that's usually the pushback is, well, this isn't science, this
Mhm.
is woo woo. And he's like, no, it's scientifically grounded. And this is the wave
Yeah.
of the future. So congratulations on this international #1 bestseller. It's
Thank
called The
you.
Smart Woman's Guide to Breast Cancer for listeners. And you can grab it on Amazon, or I'm sure on your website.
Yep,
All right,
exactly.
let's go through another couple questions. I'm everything perimenopause/menopause in the 50s decade. Are we too late to the game?
You're never too late to the game. That's the amazing part, is that I have women start hormone replacement whenever they're ready to start hormone replacement. So some of them are perimenopausal and they can't sleep, because the way that we lose our hormones, we lose progesterone first. So what that looks like is you're a little more anxious. You seem a little more scattered. You're not sleeping, or you're having trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, something along those lines. Because if estrogen is our on button, progesterone is our off button. So you're having trouble calming, resetting, that kind of thing. So I'm often in the perimenopausal woman giving them progesterone. The next thing we lose is estrogen, and that's generally when we lose our cycle. When we lose our estrogen is when we lose our cycle. So estrogen, in the beginning, what it looks like are all those like temperature disturbances. You have the hot flashes and that kind of thing. And then further down the line, there's a lot of silent things happening, but the stuff that really bothers people is they're losing their hair, their skin is dry, their hair is dry, their nails are dry, everything's dry.
Girl, that's what I hear.
And then, but at the same time, they're undergoing a lot of heart degeneration, and maybe they're getting some palpitations. I literally had every single imaginable side effect to menopause, like every single one. And when I went through menopause, I was still under the impression that hormones caused breast cancer. So I thought that I couldn't take hormones. So when I tell you I suffered, I mean, I suffered. I was having I was having dizzy spells and, like, had to go sit down in the middle of a case in the operating room because I was afraid that I was gonna fall over. And so you undergo neurodegeneration, you're, like, searching for your words, can't find them, and it's like something that you thought of 3 seconds ago, and now you can't find it, or you walk into a room and you're like, "What the hell did I come in
Yeah.
here for?" And
Well,
then
that
you
already
leave the
happens to
room, and
me.
then you remember, and then you
Oh
come back
no.
to the room, and you forget
Yeah.
again. So that's estrogen. That's estrogen loss. So, when people present with that, then we replace that. And then shortly after estrogen, a couple of years after estrogen, then you start to lose your testosterone. So those are the people that are like, okay, all of a sudden I'm flabby. I've lost my muscle mass. I've lost
I've
my
gained weight.
confidence, like my mojo.
Mhm.
Um, so that's testosterone. Your like bravado, your confidence, your muscle mass, um, your libido, your
Yeah,
drive.
it's just this whole thing sounds horrible, to be
Yeah,
very
it's
honest with you.
horrible. It's horrible. But here's what's not horrible. At any stage along the way, we can give hormone replacement safely, effectively. Now, our goals of hormone replacement are not to restore fertility. We don't want to bring your period back. Like, that's not what this is about. We give hormone replacement so that women can continue to be the high functioning, happy, wonderful people that they were when they had hormones,
Hmm.
right? And ultimately, our goal is to keep women out of nursing homes and wheelchairs and adult diapers.
Hmm.
These are our goals,
So you're
right?
thriving through the
And
end instead of
it,
just completely
yes,
falling apart.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Because I don't know about you, but I don't really want to, I live a really meaningful, purpose driven life. And I don't want my last decade spent in a nursing home in diapers drooling. I just, that's not what I want for me.
Hmm.
Like, my friend JJ Virgin talks about being relevant till the time that she's 100. And I'm going to be honest with you, I have the same goal for myself. I'm going to continue to be relevant.
That's a
And
great goal.
they're going to be taking my hormones out of I'm going to be clutching them in my hands.
So
Like,
you've noticed a huge difference then since you started the hormones.
huge difference.
Hmm.
Huge difference.
Like night and day. Is it immediate or does it take time?
I went really, really, really slowly. So it took me a year to titrate up to the point where I have all the effects that I'm looking for without any untoward effects. I am trained by Dr. David Rosensweet, who, as far as I'm concerned, is like the grandfather of hormone replacement. And he has, in my opinion, the safest, healthiest method of delivering bioidentical hormone replacement. And there are a lot of people who are not doing it well and not doing it responsibly. Again, I don't guess, I
Yeah, you
test,
test.
right? So we're measuring all the time because I don't want minimal doses. I want the right dose. This is Goldilocks, right? Too much is bad, but so is too little, right? Like I want results. I don't want people having osteoporosis and having fractures because if I don't give them enough to protect their bones, I haven't helped them. If I don't give them enough to protect their brain, I haven't helped them. If I don't give them enough to protect their heart, I haven't helped them. If I don't give them enough to give them a libido, I haven't helped them. You know, if we want these people to stay in their relationships. We want them to be able to want to have intimacy with their spouses or their significant others, whatever. I'm not You can be married to whoever you want. There's no judgment here. I could care less. Um, but I want them to want to have sex and enjoy sex because it's an important part of life and intimacy and a relationship. And when that goes away, it's a terrible strain. I mean, not for nothing, but it has a lot to do with why people get divorced. Because if they maintain intimacy, the likelihood is that that intimacy runs across the board and that they're also talking and also being there for one another. And when that part goes away, there's a lot of distance.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Okay. This was a good one. She says, "Ugh, so what is good then? I just had thermography. Thermography came up a lot. What are your thoughts on
Yeah.
thermography?"
So I know thermography is safe. I get it that's why people have flocked to it. But the problem is that thermography is not a screening tool for breast cancer and it's just not reliable.
Okay. So no to thermography.
No, I don't use it. I mean, what thermography does is it finds a heat signal. So, it's a good test to look for inflammation. And I often use it as a test for inflammation, but I'm not using it as a screening tool for breast cancer.
It's like a whole separate thing. You
Yeah,
wouldn't feel
whole
comfortable.
separate thing.
Okay. How do we get insurance companies to pay for the QT scan?
Well, when I have 50 centers open, like right now, why are the insurance companies going to deal with me? Like I'm a little pisher, you know? But when I have 50 centers open and people in every state are demanding it, they're going to have to sit down with me. When they're saying like, I don't care if you're paying for a mammogram, I'm not getting one. And, this is what I want. They're going to, and ultimately, what the insurers will realize is that I'm going to save them a lot of money because we're going to eliminate all of those unnecessary biopsies. We're going to eliminate the overdiagnosis. Just looking at the overdiagnosis alone, if we diagnosed, well, I shouldn't say if, we diagnosed 300,000 women with breast cancer last year. If we overdiagnosed 20 to 30%, that's 60 to 90,000 women who were
Gosh.
unnecessarily treated for breast
Oh
cancer.
my gosh.
Do you have any idea how much it costs to treat someone for breast cancer?
No, it's got to be insane, like
It's
sky high.
insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. So I'm saving a lot of money for insurance companies, and they'll realize that. They'll realize that, and they'll realize that driving health and protecting health is the right thing to do, and it's going to improve their bottom line.
What about underwire bras? That question came up quite a lot.
Yeah.
Are
So the
underwire bras safe or do they contribute to?
So the problem with underwire bras, it's not like we're not reacting to the wire or anything like that and creating a circuit. I don't think. The maybe
Now that you say that out
when I
loud.
say that, are we creating a circuit? We
Oh.
could be creating a circuit. I'm
Mhm.
not sure if we're creating
Yep.
a circuit, but the issue is that they're not great for circulation. So, and the problem with the breast is that most of us don't have great circulation through our breasts. And if we spend too much time in that sympathetic fight or flight mode,
Yes.
a lot of us are spending too much time in
Yes.
that sympathetic fight or flight mode, then what that mode does is it takes circulation away from non-essential organs and it sends it to what it considers essential organs. And the only essential organs that our fight and flight mode considers are the ones that help us run away from a saber-toothed tiger. Because we, again, are modern beings living on a very old gene code. So we only understand very primitive thoughts. We understand safety and we understand danger. And we're not able to decipher what modern dangers are or what ancient dangers are. We only know ancient dangers, right? So we see danger and we're like, okay, run away from the saber-toothed tiger, right? So all the blood is going to get shunted away from the breast because you don't need to breastfeed when you're running away from a saber-toothed tiger, right? So if we spend too much time in that state, we're going to take the blood supply away from the breasts. The breasts are already congested. If you're wearing an underwire bra, it's even more congestion. And the breasts are a reservoir for toxins because we do have a considerable amount of fat in our breasts. Fat is where we store
it.
our toxins. So if you're not circulating and you're not moving that tissue around and you're not moving that lymph fluid around and you're not circulating out of the breast, you're going to have more breast pathology. So
That makes
if you want
sense.
to wear an underwire bra during the day, okay, but don't wear it like when you get home, please take it off and do your breast massage. I'm coming out with this amazing breast oil, this amazing detoxifying breast oil that I hope everyone like takes their beautiful roller ball and uses it on their breasts every night to
To
get
get the
some
lymphs
massage and
moving,
to
right?
get some
The
lymphatic
lymphatic
flow.
system to drain
Yep.
it.
I can't wait to introduce this product. Um, I'm introducing that and a very special deodorant, which actually works and smells amazing and is detoxifying because that's another place where we want to pull toxins out is our axilla. So I have some really, really, really
This
exciting
is
stuff
so, I
happening in
mean,
the
you are
next
like,
year.
look at you go. This
Yeah,
is
I feel a little like Oprah.
the redheaded Oprah, Dr. Jenn. Okay, last question for you is, does the pill or hormone replacement, that came up a lot, and we've talked about it, but does that increase your chances of breast cancer? We've all been taught that. So,
So the pill does. The pill
okay.
does. And it's not because estrogen is bad. We just have to be really careful. The pill does not contain endogenous estrogen. This is not what our ovaries are making. The pill is conjugated equine estrogen. This is from pregnant horses.
Wait, what? You're blowing my mind throughout this entire episode. Say what? What did you just say? Can you
Yes.
repeat that?
So conjugated equine estrogen, this is the estrogen that is synthesized from pregnant horse urine.
That's what we take when we call it the pill.
Yes, that's correct.
No.
And
No.
there are 30 forms of estrogen in that compound that your body does not know.
Oh my gosh.
So, there was a Denmark study of 1.8 million women, and they found a linear relationship, a linear correlation with breast cancer according to how long you've been on the pill. Because the pill is not, and whenever you take estrogen orally, it is highly inflammatory. I never, ever advocate for oral estrogen or testosterone.
But that's what all the teenage girls are taking.
I know. It's quite a diabolical, sinister plan, I'm sorry to say.
Oh my gosh.
That it leads to infertility, and then no one deals with why they're infertile. And then 10 years later, they find themselves sitting in my office.
with breast cancer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's awful. So I don't believe in birth control pills for anyone for any reason. Sorry. I'm not making a lot of friends here today.
You're in good
Uh,
company, so.
so if you are in need of birth control, obviously barrier methods like condoms, or abstinence. I know that one is not very popular.
You might have lost some friends on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. And I believe in copper IUDs.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I don't believe in any of the hormone eluting IUDs because they're not bioidentical hormones, and I don't think we should be putting hormones in our body that don't belong there, that our body doesn't know what to do with them or how
Yeah,
to
it seems like a
detox from
normal
them.
pathway to rogue cells and to cancer.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the only time that we see an increase in cancer with hormone replacement is if you use some of these formulations. But if you use bioidentical hormone replacement, there's no increase in cancer.
Wow. We covered so much. I think this episode is going to be such a blessing. The statistics that we read in the very beginning of the show are that unfortunately, people who are listening to this right now, there are going to be a lot of women that, if statistics hold true, 1 in 8 will be diagnosed with breast cancer. And I think that given the gravity of what we're facing, we have to come to a reckoning of the outsourcing method that we have been playing for so long to mainstream medicine. It's not working, and women are getting very, very sick, and there's so much loss of life that shouldn't be happening. So I am so excited about all this progressive era, true progressiveness that we are living in when it comes
Yeah.
to women's health, and you are leading the way. And I'm just so thankful for you sharing so much wisdom. I truly think it's going to bless so many women who listen to this. And please share this episode with your girlfriends, with your aunties, with grandma. Show her how to use a podcast. Share this episode. And then how can people follow what you're doing so they can know when your clinic comes to their state? And even for
Yeah.
those forgotten women, how they can get in touch with you now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you want to learn more about the imaging, it's perfectionimaging.com, and perfection is spelled PERFEQTION. And then if you're interested in any of my medical programs that I talked about today, the prevention program, the breast cancer treatment program, or the hormone program, that's at realhealthmd.com. And there you can learn about the programs and sign up for a call. And then I have my own podcast. It's called Keeping Abreast with Dr. Jenn. We have Britt coming up on that podcast. And you can follow me on all the social channels at Dr. Jenn Simmons, and my Jen has 2 N's. And then, of course, if you know anyone anywhere on a breast cancer journey, or you just want to learn about prevention and how to live your best life. I actually had someone in the center today who read my book and then said to her husband, "You need to read this. It applies to you too." Like, it really is how to live your best life. We call it your breast life. And it's called The Smart Woman's Guide to Breast Cancer, and it's available on Amazon, on my website, realhealthmd.com, or, anywhere.
You've got so much wisdom, and I feel like we just got some of it because you have so much information that you're putting out there to really help push us to this new era where we can move beyond where we've been stuck for so long and take control of our health. And I think that this is going to help a lot of women. So thank you,
Yeah.
Dr. Jenn, for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me.